Hello friends! You must have heard stories about animals that were rescued after suffering grave mistreatment. However, animals don't only suffer at the hands of humans, as nature itself can often give them a hard time. Our story today could have ended tragically for the dog if a man hadn't come to its aid. The farmer was returning home from work. He was walking through a field when suddenly he heard someone whining plaintively. Taking a look around, he couldn't see anyone at first because there was tall grass all around him. Carefully moving forward, he found a dog that was drowning in a muddy pond. The poor animal was exhausted from the futile attempts to get out on its own. The dog seemed desperate. But when he heard someone approaching, it perked up, hoping that it would be saved. However, the man simply couldn't approach the dog because he feared that he could also fall into the muddy water. So the man found a plank to place over the slurry and thus managed to get the animal. When the dog turned its muzzle to its savior, the animal's eyes radiated hope. The poor thing was trembling with fear. It's unknown how much time the dog had spent in the mud, but when the man put it on solid ground, it could barely even stand up and kept falling down from exhaustion. After the man wiped the mud off the animal, it staggered off. It turned out that the animal had a home, and since news in a small village always travels fast, the animal's owners came to thank the farmer for saving their pet. They brought their pet along with them, only now it was clean and rested. The dog turned out to be very cute and well behaved. It's a good thing that the man stumbled upon the animal, otherwise it would have definitely died in that pond. Another touching story happened in Brazil. One day, visitors of the Cultural Center of Araras started complaining about a strange noise that they were hearing, but its source couldn't be identified at first. The sound somewhat resembled muffled whining. At first, everyone thought it was coming from a distant corner of the building. Later, they realized that the sound was most likely meowing, but they couldn't be sure of that. The employees of the center checked everything. They looked in every corner, but they couldn't find anyone. Then, someone suggested that the sound could be coming from under the ground. And unfortunately, they turned out to be right. Several people in the group suggested that if the sound was really coming from under the concrete floor, then it was better to leave the creature down there to die. Fortunately, there were also people who thought that it would be way too cruel and were ready to take action. They contacted the utility company, which promptly dispatched several workers to assess the situation. People confirmed that the sound really was coming from under the ground and insisted on breaking the concrete floor. The workers identified the approximate location where the animal could be immured and began to carefully break the floor. There, they found a pipe, which they cut. Meanwhile, the sound was getting louder and louder until finally it sounded loud and clear. Then, having reached into the pipe with his hand, the man pulled out a tiny kitten. It curled up in the palm of its rescuer, and everyone who got to witness the rescue began to applaud, rejoicing at the successful mission. However, it was far from the end. Even after the kitten was pulled out and taken to the vet, the strange sound that had been haunting the center did not subside. The rescuers realized that there was another kitten inside the pipe, so the rescuers continued to bang on the pipe, looking for the right place to cut in order to try and save another life. After identifying the right spot and cutting the pipe, they managed to rescue another kitten. However, it turned out that there were more of them. The rescuers continued to repeat the cycle more times until they managed to rescue all 4 kittens, which were stuck in different parts of the pipe. Later, the people found out that the kittens were actually born on the roof of the building, but then they fell into the gutter pipe somehow and went down until they got stuck. The little animals were lucky that kind people heard them. Otherwise, they would have died a slow and painful death. The news of the kitten rescue quickly spread throughout the city, and people started gathering to help the little creatures. Since we announced the rescue of the kittens on social media, people in the area have donated milk, bottles, medicine, and pet products, said Ricardo Urbach, one of the rescuers. The kittens were rehabilitated after the stress they suffered, and they all got adopted. But it isn't only people who save animals. Animals can also save people. In 2004, Thailand experienced one of the largest tsunamis in the history of the country, which claimed the lives of 8,500 people. An 8-year-old British girl named Amber could have also died, but she was saved by a baby elephant. The family came to vacation in Phuket. They were staying at an oceanfront hotel in the resort town of Chong Thale. Every day, the girl went to see a 4-year-old elephant named Ning Nong. She fed it bananas and rode on its back. Amber liked to spend time with the elephant, and the animal seemed to reciprocate, often hugging the girl with its trunk. One day, the family felt the ground moving, but it stopped soon, so the mother and daughter went to the beach. The girl immediately rushed to see her elephant friend and climbed on its back. But the animal started behaving strangely. It refused to obey its owner and tried to get away from the water. A little later, the water started flooding the beach, and while some people were collecting shells and fish that washed ashore, the elephant got restless and rushed inland. Soon, the water began to rise again, and the large waves were knocking people down. The mother began to worry when she lost sight of her daughter. Meanwhile, the elephant was already running away, allowing the girl to hold on to its back. The animal fought the water and took the child to a small shelter where it waited for her to get off its back and hide. Amber's mother saw the elephant and her daughter as they fled the water and caught up with them. She hid with the girl on the first floor of the house. 10 minutes later, a new wave demolished 2 rooms on the ground floor of the house where they were hiding, but the family survived. Amber and her mother didn't know what happened to the heroic elephant, but they've been donating money to protect and save elephants in Phuket for 12 years. According to some reports, the animal managed to survive the tsunami. It turned out to be a female elephant, which was now named Bai Tong. The former owner couldn't keep the animal when it got too big, so he sold it. Bai Tong went on to live in an elephant camp in the western province of Kanchanaburi. When the owner learned what the animal did, they started calling her a real hero. In 2020, Indian photographer and geologist Anil Prabhakar managed to take photos of an orangutan acting very friendly and showing incredible compassion for a human. The man was on a hike in a conservation forest run by the Borneo Orangutan Survival Foundation when he saw a conservation worker clearing snakes from the river. The man was surrounded by them. Meanwhile, there was a big orangutan near the water who was watching the person curiously. When the animal saw the snakes, it immediately extended its hand to the man and pulled him ashore. Having made sure that the man was safe, the orangutan left. This photo and story won over the hearts of many netizens around the world. People couldn't help but praise the animal's kindness and compassion as it rushed to the aid of the man and saved him. Despite the fact that venomous snakes are a great threat to orangutans in Borneo, which are already endangered due to forest fires. Friends, that's all for today. Like the video, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.